Everybody. This is the School of Leaders for Washington, D.C. for January 2025. And our speaker today is Stefanie Miles. Stefanie was on the women's team last April, the 223rd Women's Cursillo. And I'm very pleased to have her with us tonight. So welcome, Stefanie. I'm going to see if I can't make you how do we turn on the spot or
No, go to the
you
top.
know what? I think I know where it is. It's speaker. Okay, Stefanie, go ahead. And if everybody
Okay.
could put yourself on mute, that would be helpful. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And it's truly my pleasure, Kathy. Thank you for asking me.
You're welcome.
And I'd do anything for Kathy. So during my weekend, I just wanted to mention I gained a nickname, actually a couple of nicknames. And one of them is haiku. So yes, I did write one. Is Miss Phyllis here? No. Yes. Yes, I wrote one, Miss Phyllis. I saw you. Okay. So the talk that I gave, the Rollo that I gave was ideal. So this one is inspired by that one, this talk. Who am I to be? What God has in store for me. Thanks, Lord, in advance. So the questions were posed, that was posed to me to talk to you about tonight was like, how did I come up with my ideal talk? And honestly, I have no clue how I did it. It was complete. It was completely spirit. I wrote the things. I read the book. I talked to people, and it happened. Because I just prayed for Sue because I knew I had a feeling. Sue was like, "What did I get myself into? Why did I even invite this lady? She's gonna bring what? She's barely bringing the spunk. What is going on?" At the time I was going through a lot of things. I just got this new job. I was just under a year working at my new position, and it's pretty much, I'm the example of God calling, not calling to qualify, he's qualifying the call. Because I don't know what I do every day. He will ask me, I just don't know. But so Sue gave me that assignment on that glorious day, and I don't know what I looked like, but in my mind I was like, I know she lying, giving me some ideal. I did that's the ideal. Like that's literally what was floating through my mind. But I said, probably said, "Oh, thank you, God bless, amen," and you can count on me. Is that the response? I can't remember. That's the response. So I got home. I knew the deal. This was not my first rodeo. So I looked at the book. I read Ideal. I tried to remember the Ideal talks from other weekends. My aunt and I, we talked about it on our way back home from formation that day. And we came up with nothing. Just a lot of just a lot of prayer. I'm gonna be completely honest. Just a lot of, she said, just pray on it. Just pray on it. I'm like, okay, Aunt Sheila, just pray on it. Because she got the talk that she wanted. But we're not gonna go there right now. So I looked at the new talk list because we have these new talks now. And the outlines are usually very helpful. But I was stuck. Not like writer's block, because I wrote things down, but I didn't have a talk. It took several drafts presenting in front of the team and it still just didn't click. I was near tears every time I had to come up and say, yeah, Sue, yeah, Kathy, yeah, Beth, look at this. And y'all was like, oh, they'll be saying, oh, it's okay, Stephanie. Look, I don't have it. But they were kind and they were loving. And I'm sure Father Gary sent up prayers at Mass for me because I felt it and I needed it. I looked to other sisters for examples of their ideal talks. They even called in reinforcements with their friends and other Treya mates' ideal talks. So looking at 10 examples, the outlines of new and old, I figured out something and I put a Stefanie sprinkle on it. I wrote a haiku. It was horrible. But I kept on going. Luckily, to my benefit, my supervisor is also a Cursillista. She saw the last two drafts. She told me to throw away the second to last one. With love, though, but she knew what was up. She mumbled something in Spanish and then translated it to me. And then I kind of got it. I went to the last gathering where I presented, and Sue was kind of gave me the I found myself really seeing my ideal as my Celia Cruz example and actually deepening my Spanish language learning. I took into account where I was, who I was at that moment, and the people that surround me on a regular basis. Being in the Archdiocese of Washington is a very unique place. I get to see everyone, every walk of life, every language, and get to participate around for events around the world without leaving pretty much my backyard. And I put all of that in the talk. I put all of my experiences, all of that love, all of that even hate in the talk. Okay, can't read my own handwriting. I'm sorry. So how did I decide what to put in the talk? I put everything in it. And then everyone said, you know what, you should shorten it here. You should shorten it here. And eventually it was what it was. Fortunately, I should say unfortunately, during formation, during my talk, I was always exhausted. I had probably live streamed the mass, taught Sunday school, and helped some old lady across the street. Sorry. And no, it's not just my mother. I gave opportunity and I was even inspired by my students. I read them my talk and they told me some things to add and some things to do. So the ladies who were on that weekend, I did a little high kick split thingy in the air. That was their idea. They're like, jazz it up, Miss Stefanie, with the shoulder action. Jazz it up, Miss Stefanie. You can do more than that. I was like, I guess so. Take your vitamins. You'll be fine. So I took my vitamins, drank my water, and I actually was in training for that weekend. Physical training and spiritual training. So I did a lot for that ideal talk. And I even changed my center of my ideal. Or I should say, I kind of honed it. Because I still feel like I'm more like Celia Cruz and I'm learning Spanish. and I can dance, and I like sugar. Azúcar. It was nothing academically proven, probably not liturgically correct. And I really like that Billie Eilish song. So it just kind of worked out. De Caloris.
Hey, Cloris.
Sorry. They got,
No, wonderful.
oh,
Thank
thanks, Jen.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, Stephanie. That was a great overview of how you kind of put together your talk and, referencing the formation meetings that we had in preparation for the weekend. And how, one of the things I appreciated was the fact that it took you effort. Like it didn't just come together and once or twice through and you were done. You really
No,
work on it.
pretty much the day before. That's really when it perfected.
When you came through. Okay. Well, I'd like to open it up to comments or questions from people. Um, so
Well, Stephanie, I'd like to thank you for your witness. And I can say I feel your pain
Thank you,
because
Mr. James.
I just gave that talk on the men's weekend.
I was praying for you too. I did.
And my circumstances was totally different from yours because one, that was the one talk that I never ever wanted to get because it was always the one that bored me the most on any weekend I've been on. I'd only heard one time that I really could understand what that talk was about. But how I came to get the talk this time, we had one of our team members who was going through some personal family issues, and he was not able to put himself into that talk. So 2 weeks before the weekend was to begin, he dropped himself off the team, which meant there was no one to do the talk that was supposed to start the weekend. And since my talk on action had already been written, I didn't have that to do. And so many others on the team were still working on their talks. I said to Charles, I'll do the talk. This was on the Friday. Saturday, he sent me the talk, the outline, and when he had given the talk, I was up Sunday morning at 5 a.m. writing the talk before I went to church and Sunday school, etc. By 3 p.m. at formation, I presented probably 70% of what the talk would become on the weekend. And when I finished writing the talk, I gave it, and it gave me the opportunity to really open myself up to some admissions that I had never even told anyone, because as the talk was about ideals and I wanted to make it as authentic as possible, and everyone sees me as being such an achiever of everything. And I put that into my talk that I had become so overwhelmed trying to meet everyone's expectations. I just dropped out of school and I dropped out of my life as it was at that time because I could not meet everyone's expectations and I had no ideals. And I spent probably 2 decades just wandering aimlessly like a ship without a rudder, which so many people repeated it over the weekend, the ship without the rudder, without an ideal. And that finally God did give me an ideal of what I needed to do. So when you were sitting there thinking about what you needed to write about or whatever, I didn't have to worry about that because I didn't have time to do that. So I feel your pain though. And now that I've done that talk, at least I understand a little bit better than I did all of those other times I've heard it. So
Yeah, I definitely needed to give myself permission to let go, I guess, and not look for the right answer.
yes.
Yeah.
I can say that.
It's interesting how you two had two very different experiences.
Mhm.
And that is a nice um, compliment to the fact that every person has different gifts, different situations, in writing the talk and how much time. And you know what? God still shows up and gets the work done. So
And he
isn't
did.
that amazing how that works? Other comments or questions? Faye.
I'm, I'm wondering, do you have to look at the way the talk used to be structured? And is it structured differently than it is now? I guess I'm not remembering. I mean, I was just so overwhelmed at how entertaining and insightful your talk was, and how lively it was compared to some other ideal talks that I've heard in the past. I was wondering if that was the outline or if that was just the Stefanie polish. I thought perhaps it was the Stefanie polish, but
A little bit of polish but the outline. Okay, so like I want to say draft number 7 that you guys caught. I don't know what, and it was like you all said that's boring. You guys straight up told me that it was like that's more of the. I'm sorry, it was like that's kind of the outline, but I want to say, go ahead, Sue, because she's gonna cover.
Yeah, go ahead, Sue.
Definitely, I asked you to do that because number one, it's a favorite talk of mine.
Is your
And
favorite? Oh,
and number
you can keep
two,
it.
I thought together with your students that you would be able to put the pizzazz into that talk. But
Okay, Sue.
but I'm going to answer Faye's question.
thank you.
And the outline, the very brief outline, you've got two things when you look at these talks. You've got an outline in the beginning, and then you've got an expansion on the talk. There should be a big red flashing line in front of the expansion that said, whatever you do, don't read this. Because it is convoluted and confusing and makes things difficult, and it gets you trying to put too much in. And really, it's the short outline that makes it go. But you did a great job. I was suffering because you were suffering because I said I didn't want to do that to you.
Yeah.
The
Well,
struggle.
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing the process, Stefanie, because I was at that weekend and heard that talk, and it was the first one of many that we heard, and it was vibrant and funny and lively and confident, and I would have never thought that you had a difficult time coming up with it. So it was very good.
Yeah, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. It was a struggle of love, but it was a struggle. I forgot
I
to.
want to also say thank you to Stefanie. I want to echo what Teresa just said because I was there and I would never have guessed you struggled so much to prepare. But I thank you for doing that on our behalf, and thank you for sharing that process.
I don't know if you guys can see, but this was part of the planning. Let me move it this way. Yeah, I laid on my floor.
On the floor.
On the
Is that
floor.
what that is? You on the floor?
That is me on the floor. Because it was like I read it and so my supervisor, she knew that, I was telling her, she said, oh, so Stefanie, when are you gonna get your assignment? Did you get your assignment yet? I said, no, not yet, Mara. And she's like, oh. And I was like, oh, it's going to be this weekend. And so Tuesday, because she works from home on Monday, so she waited until she came in the office to ask me. Now, when we were doing our little Zoom meeting, she was like, wait until she got in the office. And she's like, so she said, what did you get? It was like, ideal. And that's when she was like, she kind of like, okay, yes, you got it. C. And I was like, and so then that's when I proceeded to actually, I read the outline and I read that beyond this line page that Sue was talking about. And that's when I just laid on the floor because I didn't know what else to do.
I want to share something, please. 3 points. First is one of my favorite ones as well. It remind me, it is one of my favorites also because I used to be in youth group in Puerto Rico, and usually that was the talk. The apostolic life before before you go out home to do your apostolic life, or ideal, or forgiveness. So it's always have this thing about nostalgic, about that I love the talk. When the first time and only time that I was giving a talk, it was ideal. And I have a little bit of James and a little bit of the witness, because it was hard at the beginning. I thought it was very spiritual. So I love it because the person cries. So I really said, great, awesome. But trying to work on it, it was not easy. And I can do halfway. I was, oh, awesome, this is marvelous. But the other half was difficult to relate everything and put it all together. And just the expectation that is the first talk, that everybody's like. So I can relate to that. I thank you for reminding me that always we need to work on something. Like right now, I have been asked to do something that I haven't done in the totality, and I was wondering about it. And your talk gave me some other hints to consider in my decision for something else from another ministry. So I thank you for being so sincere in your witness. And I thank you for reminding us that God has something stored for us in different ways, in different stages of life. And that the way that you give it, that you were talking, that you really emerged in the talk tonight. So thank you so much.
One thing that you don't really realize until you look back on it, but the ideal talk is the only talk that does not mention God.
But that was another tough thing. That was actually, I was like, I can't say what.
Yeah.
But that, and Jesus is my boo, and I can't mention it.
Yeah.
But originally, it was a high. That's why it was sounding confusing. Because it's a personal Christ. I even have the draft myself at home, and it was like, but I didn't give it because I got sick. So that's why I have a little bit of James. I have to drop off the team by mutual agreement of the chairperson and myself, coordinator. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah. So other comments or questions from folks?
I'm sitting here and I'm not sure if to feel bad or feel guilty. I was given this talk, I think it was the second or third team I worked on. And I said to myself, I am too new in the game for this. This is confusing. I just couldn't grasp it. Stephanie, you had seven drafts. I think I had 9 or 11 drafts. And I
I had more than 7. It was probably 11 as well. I just think, that's what made it out of my bedroom.
I just knew after that I am tucking that away and I am not looking at that again. But it all worked out well. And one person shared their ideal talk, another. And I just got more confused as I read each of them. But God used our dear Laverna Tiba, and she sat with me and she said, we're going to do this. I want you to put you on this. Forget about all of these drafts. Forget about mine. Put you on that and let's put you on it and let's start from there. So yeah. So I'm sitting here and I'm saying, wow, hear all of the different feelings about the ideal talk. And I just tucked mine away and I said, I'm not looking at this again. And I hope that I'm not asked to give this talk
don't-
again.
If I gave the target, it definitely would not be what I gave that weekend. Silly
But,
Blues may show up,
and
but that's it. That's all I got. Okay.
and that's true. I mean, one week
Mm.
when we serve on more than one team, we try to make sure that people have a variety of talks so that they don't, get associated with just one talk. But even if you do get the same talk, you're a different person, and the Lord may have a different message that He wants to get through to the group through you. So you do have to kind of start over. And that's one of the things about Cursillo is we do have these outlines. So it's not like the talk is given. And I work in Kairos prison ministry. And in Kairos, it's adapted from Cursillo for their prison setting. And the talk is set. You literally read the talk. And then when you're in advance, it says insert personal testimony here. And you come up with a story to illustrate the points. So it's not like we're writing the talk, but in Cursillo, it's pretty much an outline. And if you just read the outline out loud, it would take you 25 to 30 minutes.
And it would be boring.
And it would be boring. Yeah, because part of it is listening to the Spirit to say, what are the key points in this talk? And what is extraneous that can be left out? And we go from there. So other comments?
Yes, I just wanted to say, first of all, whenever I think about Stefanie, I always have to think, well, what is her name? Because I call her Haku so much. I have to think, oh, of course, that's Stefanie. And like she's a natural writer, so I was very much surprised at the challenge that she had in composing the talk. However, there are two things that stand out. Number one, with the ideal talk, it is the first talk, and consequently, from the coordinator standpoint, you always are very, very prayerful and very, very selective about who gives the ideal talk, because you know that kind of jumpstarts, it kicks the weekend off. So you want to be sure that whatever message they have is conveyed to the new brothers or sisters. Also, what you mentioned, which was very important, that God qualifies the call, which is pretty much what Kathy was saying, that no matter what your message is, there is a prayerful reason that you are selected to give that ideal talk. In other words, there's almost a dynamic there. God called you to it, yet you cannot mention God, which means that your inner spirituality is tapped. So with you being a very physical person, you jumped, you screamed, you laid on the floor, and you had different drafts. It all came together for the good. And this was also important for us to hear tonight, as hopefully we will have new team members to come from within this group, that they realize that there is a lot of the background that goes into preparing a talk, but in the end, it all comes together for the good, for those who believe in him. So thank you, and Decolores.
Other comments or questions? Yeah,
Yes,
Bernadette.
I am curious as to the School of Leaders is where we get our team members. And how do we be able, I mean, this is wonderful that we are going through these talks because it will give us some idea about the experience that we need. And of course, we that have had the pleasure of working on a team know how that is. But in terms of being able to be exposed to, well, we're starting with our ideal, that outline or being able to formulate some kind of ideas as we go along through the different talks of the weekend. I guess I'm trying to follow up on what Faye was mentioning earlier to us in terms of being able to get a full understanding of the requirements of the talk or it and its components.
Are you saying you would like to see the outline?
I think that would be very helpful. Yes.
It
Okay.
also
I
might be
think whether
helpful.
or not the class, I mean, the school of leaders is to expose it in that way. I don't know.
It
Well,
also might be helpful, excuse me, Kathy, just in this conversation to very quickly recap the purpose of the ideal talk and and its place in the weekend, because we do have several new people on the call.
Yeah, yeah.
And it might, it's, anyway, could somebody please do that?
Well, I can give you an idea from what I gather from the outline, and it's basically to give us an idea of how we as humans are superior to all other life on Earth. We have the plant life, we have the animal life, and they don't have the option of reason or to set a course for their own lives. They have to do it through nature or through what they were born to do. But we as humans, we have that opportunity. God has given us the option where we can choose to set our course in life. And that sets us above all the other living matter on Earth. And that's basically the outline that I got from the talk.
Yeah, I just pulled up the talk outline, and it does give a synopsis, and it says this: humanity's value lies in our rational nature and in the set of ideas, aspirations, and preferences that center our life, decide our will, and impel us to the effort to convert them into realities. This is what constitutes our ideal, the indispensable foundation of an authentically human life whose dimensions determine the measure of our perfection. So that's a mouthful, but basically it kind of, yeah, the first point is that we are a superior created being. We participate but transcend animal life. That's the first point. So yeah, so I don't know if Sue, if you have more of a comment on the purpose, but basically go ahead.
Katie, did you say aspirations and what?
Yeah. I think it was
Aspiration?
preferences.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
So Sue, I don't know if, is Sue going to comment?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Sue,
I will,
Thank you.
if you would like. In general, before you attack any one of the talks, the purpose of the talk, the sole purpose of the talk, is to give the people who are at the table a sense for what it means to share your life reflecting on some part of your faith journey.
Mhm.
It's, it's, you're not writing your autobiography to be published by, you're giving somebody a sense for how to witness. But for the ideal talk, really, it is, if we have a mind, and we have memory, and we have a will. And if we are to grow into fully functional human beings, we need to use those. And we need to determine our own pathway. And if we don't do it, have you seen the array of self-help books on shelves? Somebody is going to tell you how to do it. Best you choose your own. And then the final thing it gives you is a way of weighing your ideal. Does it take do you think about it when you have free time? Do you spend your time on it? Do you spend your money on it? Does it really capture your life? I guess the last time I gave the talk, I excerpted and changed a little bit a quotation, famous quotation. The original was, "A man's reach must exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for?" Obviously, I changed that into, "A woman's reach must exceed her grasp, or what's a heaven for?" I mean, if you aim low, you're always going to be crawling on the ground. If you aim high, that's where God wants you to be.
Mhm.
But that's basically what ideal is. You know, there's all this thing about the flora and the fauna and the birds and the bees and sailboats without rudders and things like that. None of that matters. What matters is that you've got the material to be able to choose the course of your life. So do it.
And
Make a
here's the
choice.
beginning of the weekend and an opportunity to really set that course. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And as we've mentioned, the this talk is the very first one, so it's foundational, and it kind of sets the tone. It can set the tone for the day, certainly, and perhaps for the whole weekend. So that's, again, as I think Phyllis was saying, or maybe Bernadette, it has to be, you know, somebody who is carefully considered, who can really grab people's attention, help them to think, and help them begin to see how the pattern of the weekend is going to unfold. Because this is the first of 15 talks, not counting meditations. So there are 10 lay talks and 5 talks given by the spiritual directors over the course of the weekend. So have we answered that question about putting it in context? And yeah, I hope so.
Better now. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
One
we
more
are
thing.
sure.
Has National put anything in writing about these talks like they did the other manual?
Well, it came out in 2021. We were not obviously having weekends then. So we are using the new outlines. Yeah. And I think it, you know, the outline, anybody can go, if you search, I forget what it's called. You know, you can find this. There's a National Cursillo website,
Yes.
and Lay and Rollo is Rollos because it's Spanish for talk, and it's pronounced with the L. The double L is a Y sound. Rollos, the Lay Rollos. There's a PDF on the national website that you can just download if you're curious to see the particular outlines. And
Thank you.
as people have said, since our movement began in Spain, and when it came to the United States, it came to San Antonio, Texas first in Spanish. So so the manual is kind of translated from the Spanish, and those the expanded outline is hard to read in English because I think it still retains some of the Spanish flavor.
Especially from Spain, especially.
Yeah, so it's a little convoluted in English. But again, I think for me, wrestling with the outline and trying to find out what is this, what do I see as the main points, wrestling with that outline and those points and trying to figure out what is essential and what can be left out. To me, that was where I grew. Because then I gave the study talk on the Women's Weekend. I had to just really struggle to write an outline for myself based on the outline and then begin to put in stories to illustrate my points. So anyway, it was a fruitful endeavor, but it did take effort. Stefanie, you got your
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Stefanie.
Oh, so that was I was just going to mention that was one of my, I guess, secret weapons. My supervisor, Mar, she is from Spain. So she had the inside track. It was like I had the inside track. Like, she said, no, we don't do that in the Spanish speaking community. I'm like, oh, so what y'all do? And so that's what she's like, you need to take this out. And I was like, oh, okay. So, yes.
You were lucky. All right.
Yeah, you gotta find someone from Spain to give y'all some insight or something. I don't know.
So you're saying
I
they
guess
add
my
the-
I guess my main thing is to be able to learn from School of Leaders exactly how we put our talks together so that because at this particular point we talk about how difficult it is to
Mhm.
first understand
Yeah.
what it is we are supposed to be projecting, and then to be able to present it to new candidates. And I think that is my struggle, my thinking at this juncture.
Yeah,
How can the School of Leaders, I don't know, is a better word, make it easier?
have to go deeper. Go deeper.
Yeah.
A deeper dive.
Well, that's a good question. And I think as these months go on and as we hear more talks and we hear the experiences of more people, we may get a sense of that. And, maybe one of the, I will say this though, I think struggling with the outline, like I said, it produces fruit. If it's handed to you too easily,
Amen.
I'm not sure that that's going to produce the growth that is needed.
Mhm.
But that's my own point of view. So,
Mhm.
well, we are at 8:20, so I think we are going to wrap it up.